On today's show, we're going to discuss strategy for playoff-only best ball, how that strategy fits into this season's landscape. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the show. We'll do a couple drafts to show how we might implement the strategy we're going to talk about. This is a unique format, and I think some people, a lot of people, new people, even maybe some experienced people, get tripped up by the format and how we have to shift our thinking here. The biggest thing that we have to think about, can you make a team that can actually win first place? Like, I know that sounds simple, but you would be shocked how many people in these drafts aren't actually drafting a team that can get first place. Now, what do I mean by that? You need to be able to make it to the Super Bowl round and have a fieldable team that can actually beat a reasonably big field in the Super Bowl round. So, Herzig, strategy 101, highest level for this format, what would you say to people about making plus EV teams?
Yeah, I mean, fantasy playoff contests are some of the most fun contests there are, but there are a lot of different formats. And some of them, it's cumulative. So the points you get in the wild card round are going to help you in your total finishing position. But when we're talking about playoff best ball, these contests, you have to individually advance each round. So in that first round, most of these contests, you need to finish 1 out of 6. You need to win your group. Then you go on to the next round and the next round. So you go wild card, divisional, conference championship, and you just need to keep winning your group. For Draftkings, I think most of the formats are 1 out of 6, 1 out of 6, 1 out of 6. But then, as you said, all the money is in the championship. And that final round, the Super Bowl, again, because everyone's starting with a clean slate, other than you're bringing the players you drafted from the beginning, and everyone has 0 points, you need to see how can you beat out the other 815 teams or however many there are based off your bracket. And the key is, yes, not only being able to field a full team, which for DraftKings means a QB, a running back, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex spot. But I mean, it's hard to also have the exact combo out of those 6. You probably actually want to have some additional depth because it is best ball and you're taking the highest scores. So really you're looking for, hey, can I actually get like 8, 9, 10, who knows how many, as many as possible, as long as you can actually get there. And we can talk about what that balance looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, the obvious mistakes that people make, if you draft a team and you only have NFC players, you're almost dead, right? Because, yeah, you could have 4 or 5 guys maybe in the Super Bowl, but you're going to go up against somebody else that probably has a full AFC team also. So, you know, you see people out here taking 10 guys or 11 guys from an AFC or an NFC or 12 guys from all NFC, and then they're in big trouble. The other ways people can really mess it up is not giving yourself a chance to get out of round 1. As Herzig said, 1 out of 6 are going to make it out of round 1. If you take a team that has too many guys on a bye, the number 1 seed, then you're giving yourself a really poor chance of making it out of round 1. There's a lot of strategy around that. We'll talk more about that here in a second. Anything else on high level, Herzig, before we get to the specifics on the round 1 stuff, etc.?
Yeah, and I mentioned like that 815. I wasn't pulling that number out of my ass either. That's how large this DraftKings main contest is. It's $1 million to first place. That's 33% of the money to first. When you have 816 teams and the majority of those teams are going to have a ton of players from the Super Bowl, we're probably actually going to see ties. So a lot of the strategy that Cody and the group and the people who own Showdown kind of talk about throughout the year, it applies here as well when you're thinking about what kind of team I want. So yes, we want to get the best players in there, but hey, if you can find someone who's undrafted, you go with the Bills, maybe you get actually a Gabe Davis or a Josh Palmer. Now, yes, his projection isn't great, but that uniqueness can actually help you. And obviously sharing that million with a bunch of people is nowhere near as good as if you win it solo.
Yeah, and Herzig's referring to the 816 entry final on DraftKings. The Super Bowl round is 816 people, 816 entries will make that final, and it is $1 million to first. I think this is the biggest ever playoff best ball tournament in the history of playoff best ball tournaments. Pretty crazy, million to first in this thing. Okay, let's talk about advancing out of round 1. So there's a big difference between 1 of 6 advanced out of round 1 and 2 of 6 advanced out of round 1. This year, Underdog's main tournament, I believe, is also 1 of 6 advanced out of round 1. DraftKings is also, all their contests, I believe, are 1 of 6 out of round 1. That means you are going to need a pretty big time score here. The difference this year is we don't know exactly who's going to have the buys. It is up in the air who is going to get the number one seed. We have on the list here, on the table here, if you guys have access, if you have our best ball subscription, you'll see here, you can see this table, and we give everybody a chance, mathematically, chance to get a bye. The one that sticks out immediately to me is Josh Allen, and the Bills, we only have 6% chance to get a bye at that point. And so if you want to tell me that Josh Allen is actually the most valuable player right now, they have a really good chance to make the Super Bowl. You know, we have them, 20% to make the Super Bowl and 6% to get a bye. You could get a lot of games. You get 4 games out of the fantasy's best player in terms of raw scoring. So, Herzig, how do you think about getting out of round 1 this year, especially because it's so flat in terms of odds to get the bye?
Yeah. And so like for people who do want 2 of 6, if you go on underdog, there are actually some cheaper contests like the Mitten that still have that. But yeah, the structure this year really is focusing on that 1 out of 6. And the way that you see the playoffs go, like a lot of times there's just like, hey, one player that puts up a 40 burger, maybe that 45, 50, like that's all you really need. And so when we think about what the impact of that is, well, maybe, if you can actually just figure out how you can get out of that round, maybe you take more chances with, hey, if I'm able to. The second round is usually actually easier now because a lot of people that are going to be building, we talked about earlier, I'm just going to take the best players. I'm not really thinking about the Super Bowl. I'm just trying to advance out of round 1. Okay, well, now you have more teams that have dead players or uncorrelated players in the second round. So this allows for us to say, what do we want to prioritize? You can kind of think, okay, I'm going to build for that first round, maybe take one off piece or something. Example, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Lions only have, I think, like a 54% chance to make the playoffs as of right now. He's barely getting drafted. But if they do, that's a strong one-off piece that could keep going. But why I mentioned this is my initial thinking on, playoff best ball over the years has evolved, where early on, I just wanted to focus on a couple teams. Now you can see that there's actually some value in grabbing these one-off pieces, but you want to make sure you're doing it in a strategic way where that one-off piece maybe could still win a game or two and help you in the future rounds. The last thing I'll mention is as we get to the Super Bowl, when we think through who are the possible matchups, if it's 2 teams that don't have a chance again, that end up not getting the bye, but they make it through, you're far more likely to have a ton of players on those 2 teams because you look at 2 teams that are being drafted, like not near the top right now. They don't have that great of chances. You can stack them both very easily. So when you get to the Super Bowl, a lot more teams are going to have all of those players. If you eventually figure out, hey, here are the 2 1 seeds, or you're trying to guess on that now, it's far less likely with the 1 out of 6 that those heavy 1 seed teams make it to the Super Bowl. And you might actually be competitive if you actually only have 5 players from those 2 teams instead of that full 6, because it's so much more difficult to get the heavy bye-filled teams through that first 1 out of 6 round.
We're recording this on December 10th, right? And so there's still 4 weeks left in the NFL regular season. A lot is going to change on odds to make playoffs, bye odds, seeding, etc. How do you change? And this year specifically, it's so hard to figure out exactly what the seeding is going to be. How is this year's landscape changing how you're drafting right now as we sit here ahead of week 15?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can't draft scared. Like, as we mentioned, the Rams have the highest odds to get the bye, and it's only 38%. The Patriots are in the 30s as well. Broncos aren't too far from there. So it really is wide open. And I think if you're worried about, like, right now, oh, this team might get the bye, then you're leaving it on the table for when you could be kind of building more optimal teams and just accepting some of yours are going to fall off. For me, the way that I kind of look at the weeks leading into the playoffs are, I think there is a window right now where I'm going to focus on what teams, what combo of teams can I get that maybe I won't later on. If you look at the Rams, it's pretty difficult right now to actually get Devontae, Stafford, Kyron, Puka, because all of those guys are going in the first 2 rounds or maybe first 3, but like right there. So it's very, very difficult to get all 4. But if the Rams lose 1 game, they're going to fall back. So why am I trying to chase that team that is only slightly better than the others, paying that expensive price now, when I can instead go after, I mentioned the Lions earlier. Yes, only 54%, but you're never, if the Lions, to make the playoffs, they probably need to keep winning. You're never going to get them cheaper than they are right now. So this is where you maybe say take some chances on the Lions. Yes, you're going to get some dead teams, but at the end of the day, our goal is to try to get first out of this contest. Whether we lose the team now or we lose the team as we're going to lose 5 out of 6 of our teams in the first round, it is what it is. But you really have to kind of lean into that change in expectations over the next few weeks for these teams.
I want to ask specifically about Buffalo. I already mentioned, but they're almost certainly going to be in the playoffs. We have them 99% to make the playoffs. They are one of the favorites still to win the AFC, but they are really unlikely to get a bye. They'll have to beat the Patriots this week and also get a clean run out from the Broncos, etc. So really unlikely to get the bye, but I think pretty likely. 20% seems fair to me. I'd maybe have it a little bit higher just because I think Josh Allen is so good. Why should these guys not be higher in the rankings if they're going to get wild card, divisional, conference, really good chance to make Super Bowl?
Yeah, and if you look at the actual ranks, and so I think Josh Allen, we have his third, his ADP is 2.5. James Cook, we have 7, ADP 7. So those two players, which are really the two players you can trust on the Bills, they are pretty highly ranked. Now, should they be even higher? I think for Josh Allen, yes, I get your argument. You could draft him 1 overall, but for me, a lot of the NFC quarterbacks that you pair with actually are pretty deep down. So let's say you're going to go with the Seahawks. You can see, okay, he's pulling up right now. You've got Darnold's available at 46. You've got Jordan Love at 42. So you're giving up that positional value by saying, hey, I know that I can get the starting QB. And what's the expectancy in a 1-game Super Bowl between Jordan Love and Darnold versus the Josh Allen? Yes, Josh Allen's projected higher. But if you were to do like a 2v2, who you're giving up and not able to get, you're not finding a Bill at pick 46, 42 that is guaranteed to even have more than 6 points or something. So I think that's where positional scarcity comes in. But I agree. Hey, if you want to make the bet on the Bills now, especially if Josh Allen falls to you at pick 3, 4, scoop him because you have a better chance of getting James Cook. If you take Josh Allen at 1, you also have a harder chance at getting James Cook, and now you're fighting the teams that are eventually going to get them both.
Yeah. And I think that's all well said. I do think the Bills could, if they beat the Patriots this weekend, their make Super Bowl odds will go up and will probably go up in the rankings also, though. So it would not surprise me, I guess is my point, if Josh Allen is at ADP the number 1 overall pick. I'm not saying it's the right pick. I agree with Herzig about the positional scarcity stuff. I'm not saying it's the right pick, but it would not shock me if Josh Allen's ADP goes to 1 here if they beat the Patriots on Sunday. And that's why this stuff is so fascinating. It's such a fascinating format because we're not only talking about players and roster construction, positional scarcity, we're also trying to figure out what's going to happen in the games and what teams are going to be there and which teams are good. So it's such an interesting exercise. Go ahead.
I had one friend who's heavily, pretty big in the sports betting space, and he texted me. He was like, "Hey, what do you think the chances are of these two teams, an NFC and AFC team, actually meeting in the Super Bowl?" And then, we can actually calculate that based off odds and such. But then he's asking okay, and now if I was to draft 150 teams, what are the chances that one of those teams actually wins this contest? Because you can see what your exacta would be for those two teams versus this. And in my opinion, we calculated, it's I think there's actually some strategy of, hey, pick 2 teams that are potential long shots. And as you're saying, you're making a bet above the market of I know better than the market that these 2 teams have a better chance. And if it works out, I think you got a pretty solid chance. We came up with a 10 to 15% of, depending on the teams, of actually winning.
Yeah. Well, that'd be interesting. Okay. A lot of people are asking about roster construction in terms of AFC, NFC. What are you trying to do there? Is it at least 4 guys from an AFC team and at least 4 guys from an NFC team? You mentioned one-offs. Certainly there's room for one-offs, and there's certainly room for 2-offs. But how do you think about building teams from an AFC versus NFC perspective?
Yeah, so my thinking on this has kind of evolved over the years, and it's also based off what other people are doing. So early on, I thought there was just tremendous edge. And if you just pick 2 teams and just stack those 2 teams that are, obviously not getting to bye, well, when they win, their players score more points and you're making a bet that they're going to win. And then eventually, if you can just get one of those in the Super Bowl, now you've got the nuts because you've got all these players. The problem is so many people are doing that when that situation plays out, well, yes, you have the best possible team, but so do a whole bunch of others. And now you're just chopping. So I've kind of leaned into, okay, well, now I don't want to have 4 teams because I'm not really optimizing for the Super Bowl. So give me one team that I feel strongly about, often usually using the QB on that side. And then the other conference, grabbing two teams that could potentially meet in the conference championship. That's also become a bit popular. So now I think the next level is okay, if we do that and we know that, like, yes, it's a decent likelihood of you having success, but if other people are doing it too, what's the next step? And that's where I think there's some strategy of grabbing these one-offs that potentially have the huge week. And for me, this is more of wide receivers because they can perform well in games when they're losing, but grab that wide receiver that's on a team. If they lose, they could still have a big week. And now you're getting a more unique team through the playoffs while still building for these 2+1, two from one conference, one from the other. But I think there's value in having a one or two off, like one or two one-offs wide receivers.
Yeah, and I hope that answers Robbie's question. Robbie sent in a question. He said, if you can nail the Super Bowl matchup and both teams don't have buys, how optimal is it to have your best ball team be all 12 players from the potential Super Bowl? Last year, I exclusively made teams that featured 10, 11, or all 12 players from a potential Super Bowl matchup. I found 11 and 12 to be closer to optimal, but unsure. And yeah, the idea of everybody's doing that now is what Herzig just talked about. So I hope that helps there, Robbie. Other important note here I want to talk about is the way that the rosters are set up. So it is quarterback, running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end, and flex on DraftKings. On Underdog, you do not have to draft a tight end, and the roster sizes are also smaller. But the point is, one of the points is you can only use a maximum of 2 running backs each week. So Herzig, how does this, we'll start on DraftKings, where you do have to draft a tight end. How does that affect how you are drafting?
Yeah, the tight end's interesting. It's one of the ones we have the most difficulty with the rankings because no matter what we do, it feels like the ADP is always higher. And it's difficult because if you look at the actual value above replacement for the tight end position, from the top to like the guys 10, 12, however many fall down, like it's not actually that big of a gap. There's not that exciting tight ends that are available from when you're actually doing like their playoff projections. That said, you still really need one for the Super Bowl. And so, yes, 8 is not that much of a difference than 5 when you're comparing kind of the comparative value of other positions, but 5 compared to 0 when we're not talking about, we're not talking about like a huge lineup. We're talking about this might be a 1v1 or 2v2, and it's whether or not you have the tight end. So I think on DraftKings, like it's probably the one that like intuitively may need to reach a little for to make sure you get. And it's also where I've seen like other people are willing to take one-offs if they lose or if they don't like the tight end that's in their stacks, they're willing to do it just to advance. So I think that does add a pretty interesting wrinkle.
Well,
for the other position, yeah, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, one thing about the playoff tight end slate is there's no McBride, there's no Bowers. You don't even have Laporta as part of the Detroit stuff here either. I don't think he's going to be back. If he is, it would be a huge risk to draft him. And so the whole argument for tight end is value over replacement. The thing is, all these tight ends are dust. Like outside of Kittle, none of these guys scare me that they're going to blow me out of the water if I just take a 3 or a 4 or a 5 in the Super Bowl at tight end. You know what I mean? So it's not like when I'm playing season long or some of these like small field, like battle royale or 3-man's best ball or whatever, where tight end is so valuable. All these guys are dust. You know what I mean? If you're following what I'm saying. So I think that changes things at tight end also.
Yeah, they're definitely dust. It's just when you get the Super Bowl, if my dust is better than your nothing, that's a big thing when we have the same other 5 players and that's the 1v1. And so that's where like I had a Seattle and I was also taking the Patriots and Hunter Henry got taken. And like, yeah, I was sad, but then I just got
Austin Hooper.
I think it was Barner. Yeah, at the very end. And like the difference there is not that great, but I needed to make sure that I at least grabbed one, either a Aurelia or a Barner. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. On Underdog, you do not have to take a tight end. I assume that very few people are outside of the Kittle stuff and maybe like Kincaid and Goddard as part of stacks. Do you think that other people should be taking other tight ends? I guess it could be contrarian to take tight ends.
Yeah, the challenge is that for whatever reason, with the initial ADP or the way people are drafting, like the tight ends just go higher than they should. So like, it's not to say that you shouldn't do it. If you're going to go with the 49ers, like, yeah, Kittle could have a major piece, and same thing with, Bills and Kincaid, or maybe even you want to go unique with Knox. So it's fine, but like, don't consider them anything other than, hey, this is a wide receiver tight end, and think through how that game could go and uniqueness. It's a little easier to find a unique piece with a tight end on underdog because you're only doing 10 rounds and people don't need the tight end. So that's worth kind of keeping in consideration for the Super Bowl.
Okay. Quarterback position this year is super interesting because like you can make a case for almost all of these quarterbacks making the Super Bowl. And I don't say that on a normal year, but I mean, my God, in the AFC, there is no one better than plus 390 to make the Super Bowl. The Patriots, Broncos, Bills, Texans, Jaguars are all between plus 390 and plus 730. In the NFC, Rams, Packers, Seahawks, Eagles, it's all somewhat flat. I mean, 49ers, Lions, Bears, theoretically in the mix also. I guess my point is that in years past, I would be like, well, I can't really take a one-off here with a mini stack or something like that because they're so unlikely to make the Super Bowl. This year, you could tell me any of these guys that we're showing on screen here are in the Super Bowl, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. So you have to have a quarterback, obviously, for every round. If you're going to take a zero quarterback, like you're going to lose, you're not going to advance. So you need a quarterback for every round, and it's so deep. It doesn't strike me as much of a priority as years past, though, which is kind of gets back to what Herzig was saying. How do you think the flatness of odds to make the Super Bowl affects the quarterback position this year?
Yep. And I think that'll change as we get closer to the playoffs because right now, not many people are really trying to like play for Houston making the Super Bowl or Jacksonville making the Super Bowl. So instead, they'll grab one-off pieces, grab a Nico, grab a Woody Marks, grab a Jacoby Myers and Travis Etienne, but then they don't need that QB because they're like, I've got these others. But as teams get eliminated, as we get more idea of who the buys are, now it's more clear like, okay, we're fighting for QBs because the teams that got eliminated, we lost those kind of long shots. The teams that have more clear understanding of who the buys are, they now need to make sure they get those QBs. And so I do expect that as this, playoffs go on, the QBs near the end are making the playoffs will start moving up. And so it's worth just kind of thinking that's where, I don't mind when I'm building these stacks, focusing more on the teams where those QBs are lately available. Because you have to keep in mind when you look at an ADP for Sam Darnold, okay, he's 46.3. But if you grab JSN, who's going to be fighting you for that Sam Darnold pick? You can almost take him at the end of the drafts if you're willing to kind of get a little loosey-goosey with it.
Right. Yeah. And, maybe other people don't. I think the Texans are really live to make the Super Bowl. I think the Jaguars are live to make the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that would be crazy at all. And so, I think this time of year, maybe people don't see it, but I'm definitely willing to take some of these long shot stacks here to try to make Super Bowl with some teams that are very, very cheap right now, at least for sure. Okay. I mentioned the DraftKings, you have to have a tight end. So what would be your most common roster construction? Like in regular DraftKings best ball, I made mostly, not all, but mostly 3-6-8-3, three quarterbacks, six running backs, eight wide receiver, three tight ends. I think that was best for season long best ball. For playoff only best ball, is there a roster construction that you think is best on DraftKings?
Yeah, agree with you on the 3-6-8-3. For this though, I think it is there's so many options based off what you are building. If you are going to be building a 49ers, they're not getting the buy. You could put McCaffrey and you don't need another running back, especially on DraftKings where, hey, the wide receivers that are kind of like wide receivers are more likely to kind of outscore your backup running backs or such. And so that you can get flexible. I will do a shout out. We do have strategy articles on the site and I have actual range there. Usually I'm looking at one or two QBs that for DraftKings, one or two QBs, 2 to 4 running backs, 4 to 6 wide receivers, and 1 to 3 tight ends. And then my most common builds are 2s at the onesie positions for QBs and tight ends, and then either 3-5 or 2-6. You can see I'm definitely kind of favoring those wide receivers. But again, I've done 1-1 and a ton of wide receivers, especially like Josh Allen, James Cook, and then you don't know what to do with wide receivers. So then on the NFC, I go 2 teams and I just grab all the Packers and all the, pick another team for their wide receivers and hope that I get it right.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that about a bunch of teams, right? Like, let's say that I took, let's say I went like Matthew Stafford and maybe that's a bad example. Well, what if I went Drake May and Hunter Henry. Do I need to be taking another tight end and another quarterback if I have those guys? Hunter Henry, I understand, is thin, but the whole, like I just talked about, the whole tight end position is thin. So, and if they make the Super Bowl, I would think that Drake May and Hunter Henry would have pretty big games through those three. What do you think about that 1-1 stuff? That strikes me as like
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
I mean, you have to keep in mind there that like the Patriots are kind of the favorites to get the bye.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can decide like, hey, if I'm just accepting they're not going to get the bye and going with this. Yeah, I don't hate it. I think I'm looking at who am I stacking with on the NFC. If I am taking the Packers and the Bucks, am I really that excited about Luke Musgrave and Kate Otten? I don't know, maybe not. Like I think Hunter Henry's probably a 70-30 to outscore one of those two in the Super Bowl. But again, it's 12 rounds. And with that 12th pick, we're comparing. I mean, what are we comparing? Are we comparing Luke Musgrave versus, I don't know, you can pick a strong one off. Maybe that is where I'd rather get that Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has a 50% chance of making it. Maybe not Detroit because they inversely correlate with Packers, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned the path stuff there. So we don't really know yet, but there's going to come a time where it's like you're going to know who's going to be playing each other and you're going to know who's likely to play each other in round 2. And there's going to be paths that like just cancel each other out. So there's definitely a lot of strategy around that. The solver tool, and if any of you guys have the draft assistant is working, will be working for playoff best ball. If you have the tool, I assume it's going to help you with the path stuff there. But how important do you think that is, thinking about, hey, yeah, I need 2 different NFC teams. Let's make sure they're not going to play each other in round 2, or let's make sure they can only meet up in the conference championship. Let's make sure they're not going to play each other in round 1 and automatically eliminate some of my guys.
Yeah, in 3-4 weeks from now, that is top of mind, and I'm game playing out what those scenarios are right now. I don't think there's any level of confidence that any team couldn't play another team. So it's not something I'm concerned about at this time.
Okay. You mentioned getting unique. So let's say I'm building out a team of Eagles. Just like in DFS, you're going to have let's say you make it to the final. And again, all of our teams should be optimized for ability to get to the final and win in the final, because that is where all the money is. We do not even have anyone ranked on the Eagles beyond Barkley, Brown, Goddard, and Devonta Smith. How deep are you willing to go to get contrarian in an 800-person final? If you had an Eagles stuff going, would you be taking like a Jahan Dotson or a Tank Bigsby or something that really is going to project really, really badly? How much do you think it's worth to go contrarian here on stuff like this?
Yeah, I mean, DraftKings drafts are what, 72 picks, 12 times 6.
Yeah.
These rankings go to 100. So like, even though they're going to 100, that just shows that there's a lot of players that are still kind of in contention that could score on even a team like the Eagles that is pretty strong contender. So I think, and this is just an overlarger thing, but like rankings are important because they directionally give us an idea of like how we compare players and compare teams. But ADP is probably more important in this scenario, and because the game we're playing, because one, you need to make sure that you're drafting in the right order for the players to try to make sure you get the entire stacks. But also to what we're talking about with unique, you can use ADP to get a decent idea of who is and who isn't being drafted. So I think for sure my favorite time to do it is if I got the Eagles and I grabbed, Jalen Hurts and Devontae and AJ Brown, but I missed out on Saquon. Give me Tank Bigsby, because now I'm telling myself a little story. Saquon might have gotten hurt. Tank Bigsby actually emerges. I'm getting that kind of dual correlation value there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It is time to get to some drafts, I believe. Before we do, a reminder, this show is sponsored by our friends at Draftkings. The NFL postseason is almost here. Playoff best ball on Draftkings is back, and this year is bigger than ever because our partners at DK are featuring a massive $3 million prize pool and $1 million top prize in the largest contest to date. If you're new to playoff best ball, remember, it is the easiest way to get in on the playoff action without the weekly grind. Draft once, that's it. Each round, your top scores automatically count. No roster moves, no weekly management. Just build your squad and let it ride all playoffs long. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter code ETR during signup to draft your playoff best ball lineup for a shot at $1 million in the biggest contest ever. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at DraftKings.com. Sponsored by DraftKings. And by the way, if you want access to our constantly updated rankings and strategy around playoff-only best ball, you need our best ball subscription. It's just $49.99. That also includes the normal, regular best ball stuff that we'll do all summer. For details, head to the subscribe tab on establishtherun.com, then go to NFL, and then go find the best ball hyperlink. All right, Herzig, no one listened to all of that strategy talk. They just want to watch us draft. So for everybody that just fast forwarded to this point, welcome to the show. We're going to do some playoff-only best ball drafts right now. We'll do one or two here, see how it goes. I'll just register quickly here for the $20 with $1 million to first. These things fill very quickly because, well, it's $1 million to first, and it's only $20 entry fee. There's only 6 people in each draft. This will be a 12-round draft with 6 people in it. Again, as discussed in the strategy section, we do need to take a tight end here, and our goal is to implement some of the strategies that we just talked about. If you need more help with your playoff best ball drafting, be sure you pick up the best ball subscription at establishtherun.com. Not only will that give you access to our rankings and strategy for this playoff only best ball, but it will also give you access over the summer, over the spring, to our full season best ball rankings and strategy, which we spend a ton of time on all summer. So we drew the 4 pick here, Herzig, in this draft based on our rankings. That is in the McCaffrey range, based on ADP that is also in the McCaffrey range. Any thoughts on picking from the 4 hole?
Yeah, 4th hole, I'm probably just letting the draft come to us and taking whichever of those top 4 falls. You can build out pretty strong teams with any of them. And I mean, hey, Adam, I think last time we drafted together on stream, we got a lot of flack from the YouTube commentaries, but we ended up winning that 5-5 league. We are in the playoffs, so no wonder people just want to watch us draft.
Yes. You're not going to believe this, but the YouTube commenters hated the last draft that we did. Herzig's referring to a $555 buy-in we did, I believe, back in August it was. And yes, that team is very much alive, won our group, and looking forward to winning the $1 million, at which point we'll be sure to make a video shoving it down the YouTube commenters' throats. No problem whatsoever.
But if we don't, you'll probably never hear about that again. And now we're on to playoff best ball.
If you have the 1 pick here, are you taking Puka right now? And you know, like we talk about uniqueness stuff, but it's going to change based on these teams' games. So like based on these teams' wins and losses. So my take is just go Puka here at 1, but do you agree?
I am, because you actually have the chance to build out like a super team. Crazily enough, there was a team that I was in the 2 spot and they went Puka. They then went Stafford and Devontae. And then somehow Kyron actually fell all the way back around to them just because nobody wanted a one-off when someone has the 3 Rams. And so like that's unlikely, but even if you just get the Stafford, Puka, Devontae, like that's really strong, or throw in a Kyron instead, like 3 out of those 4 is still a pretty strong team.
Yep, for sure. And we go according to plan here. Puka went first, then Jackson Smith and Jigba, both from the NFC, and then you get Josh Allen here. So Sanders start. We're going to go ahead and take Christian McCaffrey, even though, let me just check our numbers here. We have McCaffrey 94% 49ers to make the playoffs, 10% to get a bye, only 7% to make the Super Bowl. I don't think the 49ers are like dead to make the Super Bowl. It would surprise me a little bit, but they're far from dead. But yeah, you know, these are the kind of bets that I think you need to make. If once you take McCaffrey, it can't be wishy-washy on it, right? You have to be like, 49ers are making the Super Bowl, and that's the way you have to draft it.
Yeah. And if they don't, I mean, what you could still end up doing is 49ers make the conference championships. McCaffrey was a huge piece. And then you end up bringing the Patriots and the Buccaneers, a team that you can get pretty cheap on the NFC side. And then you're going for Drake May and a couple of pieces there. So we'll see how the draft goes. I like to keep in mind for this pick that George Kittle's ADP is around 18, and I think our next pick is 16. So if you want to, think through for that third round, okay, we have Kittle. So what do we want to build for here? I think the Drake May makes a lot of sense. If we wanted to go with the Broncos, that's not a bad one either. Yeah.
Yeah. When it's close like that, I think the Patriots are a better team than the Broncos. And so I like going Drake May here. I do think there's like merit to holding out at quarterback in these formats, like we talked about some there. But Drake May is such a valuable player and it allows us to build out, I think, a team that reflects New England, San Francisco, I think, pretty cleanly. So, yeah, I think Drake May here. Do you agree?
I like that.
All right. Drake May for us here. And then keep in mind, if you're drafting on desktop on DraftKings, you can sort by your teams. So sometimes I'll just go through here and just be like, you know what, let me just see everybody that is here. And by the way, I already uploaded our rankings. If you have the ETR Best Ball product, you be sure you're uploading the rankings. We're messing with them all the time based on wins and losses and playoff probability, injuries, etc. But anyways, you can sort by just New England and San Francisco here, and you get to see the ADP where all these guys are roughly going to land, Herzig.
Can you go to the draft board real quick? Let's see. Ramondre is still available. So Ramondre is another one where we may want to consider instead of Kittle because you could still grab Henry, and that's a decent piece. All right, Crechion here has Green Bay LAR. They're more likely to grab Henderson. Buffalo, Philly could be anything. I don't mind grabbing the Henderson here knowing we have Kittle or Henry, and people are maybe more likely to grab. Or did Henderson already go? Maybe Henderson went and I just missed it.
Yeah, I think Henderson went. Yeah, you don't want Ramondre here, right?
Okay. No. Then Kittle's definitely the play. I just missed the Henderson.
Yeah, there. Trevion went
11. Oof.
11.
Okay.
Very high there on Trevion. So yeah, Kittle's fine by me. I do think like if the 49ers go to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to score a lot of points. Like their defense is really rough right now. And so McCaffrey Kittle, I think is a pretty good bet. If you're betting on 49ers, like they're going to have to really have their foot on the gas on offense, I think.
Yeah. And so we're definitely leaning into the Niners for the NFC because both Henderson and Diggs already went. It's not a bad idea for us to say, hey, we also may want to grab the Houston team because you can grab Nico. We can still get the full elite players of that team, not compete for CJ Stroud, get him really late. And now that gives us 49ers versus either Patriots or Houston. And actually, Houston would be more valuable for us because we'd have all the elite pieces. And it's unfortunate. Like, I'm surprised Breadman Ryan went with Trevion and Diggs, knowing we already grabbed May, but he might be like, hey, I can grab Darnold, so it's no big deal.
Yep, for sure. And you're going to see, like, I hate when people are complaining. Like, I can't face going on Twitter being like, this guy messed up my stack. What is he thinking? I mean, people are doing all kinds of things, man. Like, maybe he's not thinking like that. Maybe he just wants to have the best players. Maybe he fell asleep. Maybe he's doing something else, like it's not something to complain about. We can always, I think, land the ship, as people say, when people take guys that we want. Like it would have been great to get Trevion or Diggs here, but I'm not going to like go complain about it. I think we can still make a unique and a good team.
Yeah. And now he goes Cortland Sutton. So again, you're just going to have a lot of players, people that may just be drafting who they think are the best names. Right. From a strategy wise, Crechion went RJ Harvey the pick before us. If he didn't, I think Harvey would have been a decent pick there too. And now you've got Denver, New England. One of those probably gets the bye, but still could have pretty strong team. Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts here on our pick coming up here at 28?
Hunter Henry, maybe. And then we'd go with those two. I know Woody Marks is later on. Juwan Jennings is probably the next 49er. I'd probably, if Henry's available, I'd go Hunter Henry. Then
he went.
He's gone too. Yeah. Okay. Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
And this is where, when Adam was talking about like going through the teams, I would right now just go through the teams that we have and star them all. Just so we can easily see them in our queue. Because as you do enough of these drafts, you get a feel for what players are available at what points, what the ADPs are and such. But you don't get a feel for, unless you're watching every single pick, oh, did that player go? Hunter Henry already went, Trevion already went, etc.
Yeah. And the thing about taking Drake May also is like I could see a lot of different guys being the combo that you need. It would not shock me if Booty or Mac Hollins or even Pop Douglas were like the combo that you needed in the Super Bowl or in conference championship or something like that, because they can throw to so many different guys. So yeah, one thing about taking Drake May is it gives you like diversity there.
Yeah, completely agree. And for like, okay, so what I like to do is go ADP. So if you click ADP right now, it'll just show us, okay, of all my guys starred, who is the top. I would probably go Kayshon Boutte here to give
Yeah.
us something for that New England stack.
Yeah, I think you want to have Drake May stacked in some way. And I think, the way we have it might be a bit unique here. No Travion, no Steph Diggs, and we'll get some other pieces here as part of Drake May stacks. I like that.
Yep. And then for the second QB, we don't need a second QB unless we're thinking, oh, we're actually playing for the Houston San Francisco. And we are. So I wouldn't say we're locked into either, but we know we probably want to grab either Purdy or Stroud. I'd slightly lean Purdy because then you get two in that Super Bowl versus New England versus just guaranteeing only one. And I think Purdy's just a bit of better pick. But also, no one's really fighting with us for Purdy because we have all the 49ers so far.
Right. Yeah, I don't think you need, like Herzig said, I do not think you need to take two tight ends in a setup, two quarterbacks in a setup like this. You can just be like, Drake May is the man. However, anybody who's played best ball understands that it is a huge advantage to be able to ping pong. In other words, maybe in conference championship, Drake May goes for 35 and he carries you. And then in the Super Bowl, Drake May only scores 8, but Brock Purdy scores 30. You know what I mean? And that like ping pong effect is so huge in the best ball playoffs. That's why if you guys listen to the solo pod, I was just so tilted that I lost Daniel Jones on these teams as my quarterback 3, because like the ping pong effect, I'm just losing it, So
yeah.
If
you can go to the teams back where you were and say clear, no, the drop down. Oh, it automatically did it.
Yeah.
I like to stay out of that now, so then you can see when there's a one-off piece that maybe is falling that's valuable. My lean would be Woody here.
Yeah, over Purdy.
I think so, because I'm just not expecting Purdy to get taken. You can look at the draft board to see, like, hey, do we believe that this is a risk? You got Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love. Jordan Love is doing a little stacking. Jalen Hurts is also doing a little stacking. I'd be surprised if anyone either took Purdy.
Yeah, me too. Okay. And we can always just take Stroud also, so it's not the end of the world if someone takes Purdy.
Yeah. So we have McCaffrey and Woody. I don't think we need another running back. I know Ramondre is a possibility for the New England side of things, but we definitely don't need to reach for it. Where do you think we are lightest right now from regards to Super Bowl matchups?
I mean, clearly wide receiver, right? And we don't even have, we have Booty, who, is like their wide receiver 3, and Jennings, who I like, but I don't think he has like huge games. So yeah, certainly wide receiver.
Yeah. And so I think we could even see a 2-2 rest wide receiver and one tight end, just George Kittle.
Yeah, I would say Purdy or Pearsall here for me. We're on the clock. I
like Purdy.
Yeah.
And again, like you can see our ranks have Pearsall a little higher because of value above replacement. But if you look at the players tab, Purdy's ADP is substantially higher than Pearsall. And that's what would be my tiebreaker.
Yeah. I mean, if you sort by ADP, the ADPs here, like you really can't go off of ADP in this stuff, because Jonathan Taylor, his games played expectation just by losing that game last week caused him to absolutely tank. They're probably not going to make the playoffs now. Obviously, Daniel Jones injury also. So yeah, I mean, the ADP function, people are going to use it, but be aware it can get wildly out of date very quickly at this time of year.
Right. And that's what we talk about with strategy. I use the ADP mostly just to get an idea of where I think like the risk of a player being drafted elsewhere. And so I want to make sure that, hey, I want to get as many of my players in the stack as possible. So I'll use that ADP to kind of get a guess on the likelihood of a player being drafted.
Yep. Do you think we're okay with one tight end here?
I do. I mean, the chance of the 49ers getting the bye is only 10%. So that's pretty slim. I feel like Kittle versus the others is pretty strong anyways. And, Hunter Henry's already gone.
Yeah.
We could do a Dalton Schultz the last one. But to be honest, even as like he's probably not going to hit our flex spot either. So I'd keep it as like a possibility. Did we just
pick?
I think we might have just auto picked Stroud.
No.
Yeah, we did.
No.
Yeah.
No. Now we got to do another one. Jesus. Now we got to do it. How did that happen?
That's okay. Okay. Now we definitely go only one tight end because we need wide receivers. So Pearsall, Matt Collins, Demario Douglas feel like our last three.
See, and now someone's going to go on Twitter and start complaining. Adam took this guy when he wasn't supposed to take him. It's just a misclick. See, people fall asleep. People have misclicks. It happens.
What, the Christian Kirk drafter, the Jaden Higgins draft?
Yes.
Really wanted that late stack.
Oh, my God. I wouldn't mind the Ramondre there either, just to try to get another running back for the Super Bowl. I know McCaffrey's so likely to count for us, but Ramondre could have been a bit unique there, I think.
Yeah, comparing Ramondre versus Stroud, for sure, we would have rather had Ramondre,
obviously.
But now, given where we are, like Pearsall, Hollins, Douglas feel like the.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Pearsall for me, and then I don't think anybody's going to take Hollins or Douglas.
Okay, no, because Breadman was the one that I was concerned because he grabbed the two Patriots early, but it looks like he's just taking players.
God, I can't believe I misclicked. I really never misclicked. I think what happened was I was trying to remove Stroud from the queue, and it came to our turn, and so this changed from remove to draft.
To draft, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight.
That's okay. You can tell yourself a story that Stroud and Nico just go off for huge, and they were the guys you needed to advance in the first round or the second round. Who knows?
Yeah, it's just
it's not. The team's not dead. The team's not dead, but it's minus EV for that decision.
Oh yeah, big time.
Which wasn't a decision, but yeah.
like the EV on some of these other teams. Like obviously, Breadman has 3 quarterbacks. That's negative EV right there. But he also doesn't have many stacks. The EV of the other teams, though, certainly doesn't mean it doesn't mean that other teams have more EV because he could have taken some players.
Well,
that you
okay.
needed.
So, all right. Yeah, I think we're good with the Mac and Douglas. But look at team one. It's funny because when you were talking earlier on the strategy aspect, you were talking about you shouldn't stack up like one conference, and I was like, in my mind, I'm like, Adam, no one actually does that. Like people nope, they stacked up LAR and Detroit.
Right. I mean, they do have some AFC stuff, but it's just really hard to see this working because if you get to Super Bowl, you're not going to have much. You're going to have in the AFC side Hunter Henry or Lamar. That doesn't really help you. So yeah, I mean, this team's like dead to win. I guess Keon, but yeah.
I mean, has Derrick Henry been drafted? Can they at least add him on?
I'm sure he's been drafted. No.
All right. Well, there you go.
We have him ranked 99th. Yeah.
And like, I don't want to do the Henry, but like, if the Ravens had a little better chance, then it would have been drafted. It's a circle thought. It's dumb. No, he's not a player that I want. Also, Henry correlates with them winning. When they're winning, you want more pieces. I'd rather have, as mentioned, the one-off wide receiver who's trailing.
All right. You definitely think Pop Douglas over Ramondre here?
I do, because even though like Stevenson projects better, we're getting the uniqueness angle with that Douglas, and we still have the Drake May.
Yeah. All right. So Pop Douglas it is.
And PPR, like, he actually hasn't been that bad. He's got a bunch of like 8 to 11s, I believe.
Yeah. All right. Stay tuned. We have to do another one. I can't end on a misclick. It's like I got to make my last shot when I'm shooting basketball before I walk off the court. You can't end on a miss. I'll refund Herzig his $10 for this because I messed up.
We're playing house money with the 555. No worries.
Yeah. If we win this, you can keep the 555 min cash.
Does a chop count? Even a chop would probably, I mean, because it's funny, we talk about like chops for the showdown millies, but you're expecting, I mean, that field is tens of thousands of people. Here it's only 815
right.
or whatever. So
there's so many more combos here too that people can get into. Any other final thoughts on this draft? Not just our team, but any other team thoughts here?
I mean, we talked about the Rams thing. So it was like, hey, Puka, Kyron, Stafford, they got that. Devontae went with the 8. And that's where just getting 3 out of 4 of those, I think, is still pretty solid.
Yeah. So if you had started with these 3 Rams, I think it's pretty strong start. Obviously, you would immediately start going AFC. Like, obviously, you could add some Rams, but mostly AFC guys through here, right?
Yeah, looks like we took the Nico. So my first thought would have been Houston. All right. Yeah, I'd have to go look and think like which Jags ETN
Jaguars,
was probably
yeah.
available.
Yeah,
So Jags is
Jaguars was
probably would
one.
have gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Jaguars. I mean, ETN and Trevor
Well, and the Jags are
and
kind of
Jacoby.
fun where they have enough like, they have enough pass catchers that you could see in a one game sample. Jacoby, BTJ, Parker Washington, even throws some strain. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
ways that could play out.
Tim Patrick, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. We're erasing that from the memory. Let's go here and find another draft. The good news, Herzig, is there's always another draft to do.
They got some big stakes ones too that are calling your name. I know,
know.
you like those kind of smaller field ones.
I know. I might have to do it.
Oh, there we go. That'll be a quick one. Okay.
Oh, right. Oh, Breadman's
Ooh.
back. Kretchion is
Oh
back.
gosh.
We got the number one pick here, and you agree on the Puka thing. We already talked about that on the last one here. So, yeah, if we can get 3 Rams.
I think it's worth doing. Contest selection. So what you just saw is very common where people that finish a draft go and enter another one. If you are in a room where people are just like sniping nonstop, that actually hurts your EV because they get a better chance of advancing early on, but you don't get a full team. Go take a restroom break. Maybe wait 3-5 minutes and then get a new cycle. Or the other way, if you get a room that like, hey, these people are all kind of staying in their own lane, hop right back in with them. People are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Or don't be drafting Friday night at 11 o'clock because that's when people are going to be drafting with their, eggnog and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, what Herzig's referring to is people are just taking the best players rather than thinking about strategy, and therefore they mess up your team. And that doesn't really happen. Like when people do bad things in normal season-long best draft, I'm like, great, let me play against this guy more. Like he just does things, even if he takes my stack. I don't care. Like keep playing bad. In this though, I can see why people get mega tilted. I still don't want to hear the whining. I can't face it, Herzig.
Nah, don't whine, but just be smart about how you adapt to it.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, these
you may as well just go star the whole Rams.
Start all the Rams. Get to work early here so I don't misclick.
And then we'll keep an eye on, let's see, Texans, Jags. Broncos would probably be our favorite if Harvey would fall. If not, then maybe Nico with the Texans. And then Jags. Chargers isn't bad either. What is our feel like Omarion Hampton versus Kamani Vidal for playoffs?
So I think the Hampton easing back and not doing that great in pass protection limited his snaps, but he was still so productive that I think it'll keep growing. So I would take Hampton over Vidal right now, but I think it's maybe closer than. How does the market have it? I'm curious. I haven't even seen.
I believe Hampton's higher, but yeah.
Yeah, I would bet Hampton 48, Vidal 62.
Yeah.
That seems about right to me, roughly.
Yeah, I mean, if Hampton is able to look anything like he did when he just before the injury, like, yeah, I don't think he's going to have that same workload, but if anything, what we saw last week, a couple nights ago, would be swapped and some.
Yeah. It's an interesting start here. James Cook, Jahmyr Gibbs is an interesting start. You could see the two of the best fantasy running backs against each other in Super Bowl.
Yeah, but Gibbs is like 54% to make the playoffs now.
I know.
It's tough.
I know.
But at least you can get the Goff. Okay, Kyron and Devontae. That's unfortunate. Okay. But we're gonna get unique. So let it run out. Stafford and
yeah. We could do Broncos, Patriots.
Are there any which Eagles have gone and haven't gone?
Barkley went.
Let's go Eagles. No Stafford. Grab Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Oh, we're getting spicy.
Yeah. And Okay. What do we have Eagles available wise?
No Barkley. We have everybody else. We can take AJ.
Okay. Then grab AJ. So talking through this, I mentioned like, okay, Rams, you have the ability to kind of get those great stacks. But now that we've already missed out on two of them, we are really going to be behind the eight ball on a lot of teams that are building the Rams stacks. Not nearly as many teams are building an Eagles Rams Super Bowl, especially with the Jalen Hurts side of things.
You mean an Eagles Rams NFC Championship? Or
Oh God. Oh, sorry. Okay.
we
Yeah.
are gonna
There
do
you go.
another one, Herzig. We misclicked again.
This still works. This still works. But yeah, I just completely mind blanked, and I was definitely thinking from a Super Bowl. Mind blank there. No, we can still make this work because I was just trying so hard to get unique because
Yeah.
there's no point in going with the Stafford Puka when everyone else has Stafford Puka and Kyron or Devontae.
Right. This is unique, but you can still see how it works if Puka carries an Eagles stack to the conference championship, and then the Eagles go off in the conference championship and make it to the Super Bowl, right?
For sure.
I mean, it's a narrow path, but when you're trying to beat however many people are in this thing, like I don't think I would do this one a lot, but yeah, there are how many people are in this thing total? I don't even know. It's got to be hundreds of thousands.
I would guess like 174,000. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so all those AFC teams that I was just rattling off earlier are still available here. So we're waiting for the RJ Harvey, the Nico Collins, see if those two went. Devontae Smith is still available, so I'd lean into that one. Goddard, ADP. Let's see what. I think we can get rid of all the Rams now. We're done with the Rams. Puka's just our very expensive one-off that's going to get to a conference championship.
Yeah, we can still get Devonta if he's there, and Goddard are both still there.
Okay, but we also want to kind of stake a claim. Okay, we lost out on the Broncos with the Bo Nix. Is Nico's still available?
Gone. No, Nico's gone. Nico went here.
Okay, so we're looking at Jags or Chargers.
You could still go Broncos without Nix, but yeah.
We could. I think definitely Devontae.
Yeah.
Do you want to go Devontae Goddard and then we just play for either Jags or Chargers falling to us, which I think most of them would? I kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah, I do think. What do you think the viability is of like Broncos without?
I could do Broncos too. Let's do Broncos.
Let's do
Broncos.
Nix.
So I'm perfectly fine with Broncos without Nix. I just don't want the Broncos guy to be now stealing. Like, make sure Cortland Sutton's not.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton's still there.
Okay,
but who took Nick? Yeah, he's going to take.
I like Goddard. I like Goddard.
Yeah, he's going to take Sutton.
Because we're not going to get Sutton falling back to us. Right. Even if it's not him, someone's going to.
Well, he doesn't have a wide receiver left, and he has Nick, so like really likely to take Sutton there.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm fine with Harvey without Nix, but because we're then going to lose the Sutton too. And now the Chargers and the Jags, I think ETN's the highest ADP of those players, and he's like 38. So,
yeah. And you explain to the people why you picked Jaguars and Chargers to look at from the AFC side.
Yeah, so we want to build for Super Bowls where we have the best possible players in those. And when you looked at the other AFC teams, even though they're more likely to get into the Super Bowl, their best players had already been taken. And so, yes, you can still do fine without missing out on like one of the best players. But once one player is taken, it's more likely that drafter continues to take players from that team. And now we're fighting where there's like a idea of staking a claim where once you draft, ETN just went, once you draft like the best player on that team, it's less likely people are going to compete with you on that. Now, that doesn't always work because as we saw, some people just take whoever. But we still haven't seen any Chargers taken. So that's where my lean is.
And Breadman in the last draft seemed to be just taking whatever players he thought was best. Here, he clearly has a strategy, JSN first and then full New England stack. So not sure what's going on there, but very different draft over draft.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe he learned. Maybe he auto-drafted last. There goes McConkey. Okay. We still want to go for one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, we could take Jacoby and BTJ. It's pretty, not the best, but
And Tank. We don't have a good running back, so I'd probably prioritize Chargers because we can get Harvey.
you mean Chargers get
I mean,
Hampton?
Omarion Hampton and Vidal. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want to take them back to back?
I'd go Hampton and definitely Hampton. Trying to think the viability of going like Chargers and Jags because I kind of don't hate that.
Like a 4-2 in the Super Bowl? Like, yeah,
like ignore the Puka, and now we're going Eagles with 2 AFC teams.
Right.
Because the Eagles are so concentrated in their offense that we don't really care about getting their late like Jahan Dotson pieces. So yeah, I like the Jacoby here, and then we can still grab like a Vidal and a Tank Bigsby later on.
Yeah. You only need to start one running back in this format, remember. So, but we do need more running back help, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we're probably just going to go Jalen Hurts, and I'm perfectly happy with that. So that gives us more flexibility. We have the Goddard as well. Strange and Gadsden are fine. I know we probably add one of those two.
All right. So you want to start Jacksonville and the Chargers now, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Eagles stack is it's kind of expensive for the way they're playing offense right now. However, as Herzig said, it's very concentrated. And if they do go on a run, these guys are going to pay off in a massive way. It doesn't feel like right now they're capable of going on a run. I get that. But that could change a lot. People's perception of that could change a lot after a home game against the Raiders here this week.
Yeah, agreed. You're at wide receiver. Let's go running back and tight. Yeah, there you go. Okay. I'm saying no to QB. I think Jalen Hurts is just strong enough. I'd rather invest in the secondary pieces elsewhere.
And Tim Patrick played a heck of a game last week. Parker Washington was out, but Tim Patrick really.
But I think that was a lot of the Parker Washington like impact, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they may want to like sit BTJ down, but I mean, they can't. I mean, he's just too talented.
And I mean,
someone took BTJ.
Did they?
Maybe not. No, here he is. No, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say either remove those Eagles or drop them down to the bottom. Yeah. I can't see us taking them. Tank Bigsby maybe because we don't have like you're making the bet that we talked about earlier on Barkley getting hurt or something. But
yeah, we kind of need Vidal. I understand that Hampton and Vidal together doesn't feel great, but I feel like we kind of need that. We probably need a running back, another running back too.
I agree. That's what I mean. We have the the Tootin one, but I like BTJ. This is where I'm probably clicking the ADP button and just heavily going off the ADP for our starred players.
Yeah, BTJ is first there, but
yeah.
All right, BTJ, and then we have another pick. By ADP next is Strange, and then a big.
That's just because
then a big gap.
Tight end.
Yeah. Then a big.
I'd be fine with that. Definitely. I think I actually like Strange more than Gadsden. The way that the Chargers are like kind of, I don't know. Gadsden. What we saw from 3 weeks ago is just gone.
Yeah. Okay, we can take Strange. Unless you think someone's going to take Vidal before us or another running back that you want.
Unlikely, right? I think someone, if anything, would be more likely to take Strange when you consider ADP, and then people just want to grab like a tight end because they don't have tight ends.
Yeah.
All right, so we were at 1 QB, which we said we're good with, 1 running back, which we're not good with, 5 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
So probably 2 of those running backs. And if Tank Bigsby's available, you could even say 3 more running backs. But yeah.
Well, one thing about drafting this early that doesn't mean as much later in the year. I mean, we have 4 weeks here. Like Saquon Barkley getting hurt over the next 4 weeks, certainly possible. It's not like you're just saying he's going to get hurt in the playoffs. He could get hurt anytime the next 4 weeks, and you get paid off on Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The further out we are, the more likelihood that you have those impactful injuries.
Right. And also, if one of Hampton or Vidal goes down, I mean, the other one is just a turbo smash.
Yep. And yeah, same thing. More opportunity for time just for those injuries to happen. Same thing with Etienne. Tootin then becomes a pretty much smash if he can stop fumbling.
Yeah, and there would be a lot of these where like Bigsby and Tootin might not even get drafted at all, right?
I mean, what are their ADPs? I would guess like anyone that's getting to like a 65 ADP.
Vidal is 62, Bigsby is 65, Tootin's 65, Shipley's 66. Yeah.
I don't know the actual math, but those are not getting drafted in probably the majority of contests.
Right. And the reason that's important, obviously, is if you make it to the final and you have a guy that isn't even 100% drafted in leagues, let alone in the Super Bowl on 100% of the teams, pretty valuable if they can have a good game there when you're trying to get first out of 800 and something people.
Yeah, for sure. Want to see what else is going on in this draft? You got I'll also say these contests like are pretty, new for this year, so people are still kind of getting their feet wet. As we get close to the playoffs, people just have more experience and understand what they should be drafting for.
Yeah.
So just be ready for more of these wonkiness, random, uncorrelated teams now, which double-edged sword.
All right. Well, we have access to any running back that you'd like here, and we still do have QJ and Keenan at wide receiver, but we're pretty loaded at wide receiver.
Yeah, we have really strong wide receivers. I know QJ could like have such a big game, but it feels like we need the running backs, right?
It certainly feels that way. I don't know that anyone's going to take them regardless, but yeah, I mean, I think
let's do.
You think Vidal?
I would do Vidal and Tootin now, and then. I mean, yeah, everything's just telling me Tank has the higher upside and fits the team better, but yeah.
You mean Tank over Tootin, you mean?
No.
Tank with the last
those
pick.
wide receivers. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if we go with the QJ or the Parker Washington, theoretically, there's like a 50% chance those would actually be active for our Super Bowl, where the Tank Bigsby, if this team is live, then the Eagles are, and he's at least active.
Yeah.
If we could go back and redo, what would we have done instead of the Eagles if I didn't completely botch the NFCs? So you don't go pay. We would have just been, I guess, going Stafford and then either Nico or Harvey.
Yeah, I was going to say Stafford in a one-off AFC to get started, yeah.
Yeah. And then, but the thing is with that, so many people are going to have those combos, but like a better team.
You mean because somebody's going to have Puka, Adams, Stafford instead of...
Yeah. And then Nico or Harvey will fall to them with that 4.6, and they've got the same team but better.
Right.
So,
but we're so early in the contest. Like I'm not that worried about people having like the better version yet. You know what I mean? But maybe I should be.
Yeah. No. I think you're right. Where we are in a tight window where like if the Rams keep doing well, they could just be harder. But also, you just have 4 of them, and it's hard for 4 of them to all go in the first 2 rounds. Where if the Rams do better and they increase their Super Bowl odds, that also means they likely had the bye, and now people are less scared to draft them. So there is kind of a push and pull thing there.
Yeah. All right. So you think Bigsby for this last one? We have 4 weeks for a Saquon injury here, not to mention possibility of injury already in the playoffs. So I think from a game theory perspective, it's right. Obviously, I think QJ is better raw, but I kind of think it should be Bigsby here.
But as you said, we also have such strong wide receivers here.
Yeah.
Like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, which correlated with the Jalen Hurts. I guess if they play the Chargers.
Yeah, we're just so bad at running back. I kind of think we need to take the risk on Bigsby.
I agree.
All
and
right.
we're actually hoping for a Jags matchup instead of the Chargers, but yeah.
Right. Jaguars, Eagles, Super Bowl with Puka going off on his way to the championship game. That's how this team wins $1 million. We botched.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about a little. Where like it's sometimes these one-offs. Now, I'm not advising that you do this all the time, but like the one-off players that could have a huge conference championship that just makes your matchup with the Eagles like a lot more rare because not many people are going to have Eagles and Rams on the same teams.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, we misclicked twice, but other than that, it was a huge success. We will be back actually next week. And the reason that we're going to be back next week is because we're working on the Solver draft assistant tool. It will be ready for the public on December 11th. So if you're interested in that, go to the establishtheRun.com NFL tab, playoff best ball section, and you'll see a link there to Solver Draft Assistant. If you want to check that out, head there. We'll do some drafts with that next week, which will help us do some stuff quicker and see things, I think, a bit clearer. So stay tuned for that next week. We'll do some more drafts. We won't misclick nearly as often. For Herzig, producer Ryan, for everyone behind the scenes at ETR, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.